Okay, so to be completely honest, I have no idea how to start this intro, but anyway, so as you saw in the title, I'm just building a basic little water wheel, because I'm used to making these massive structures with not many details, and an over-reliance on Axiom, but I want to get better at doing smaller, more detailed, non-mega builds, so like, that's what I'm doing. So it's time to build then. But actually, no. Before I do the build, I first chose the block palettes I was going to use for the different parts, like the base walls and roof, and that fan was an accident. Yeah, I'm dumb. So now it's time to not actually build, because the water wheel kinda, well, you know, needs water. So I just built that little river there, well, the beginning of one, because now I'm actually starting to finally build the water wheel. Well, the building, not the actual wheel, but you probably have eyes, so you know that. So for the base of it, I wanted it to seem a bit rocky and uneven, but like be clearly base shaped, and for the actual building part on top, I wanted it to overhang like a little bit, but not too much, like just enough to make it clearly plonked on top of the rock. So now, as you can see, I'm doing the roof because, well, it kind of needs the one, but when I made it, I was feeling a bit quirky, so I made the roof a bit quirky as well. And how did I do this exactly? I gave it a bump. Yeah, imaginative. It was just wait 9 months and there'll be another water wheel. Yes, I know I'm not funny. So now finally I build the water wheel. Only like a little bit because I don't know, I didn't feel like building it. This was a few days ago, why would I remember? So instead of building the thing so important the entire building is named after it, I textured the base of it, but in a new style that I don't think I've ever really done before, which is trying to make it look like there's actual light and shadows on it, like it's darkest under the overhangs and lightest on the tip of those rocks sticking out. And I made the gradient of the rocks much less gradual than I'd usually like, but this is only a small build and contrast is maybe a good thing, I don't know. So now I'm texturing the actual building because I suppose that also needs texturing. But the texturing this time is more drippy looking, if that makes sense, which I'm sure it doesn't. But for the higher, more drippier looking drippy parts, I really wasn't sure what block to go for because like the dripstone and whatever colour that terracotta is looked a bit too dead and similar to the roof, but the red terracotta was just a bit too similar to the rest of the wall, and I like the magenta terracotta, but it's quite a different colour, and the terracotta was just a bit too similar to the roof, and the pink terracotta was completely forgotten about, to be honest, because I do not remember what I thought about it. But in the end, I decided to texture the roof instead and make the walls a problem for future me. So for the texturing on the roof, it's kinda another gradient, but yet again, a different style because consistency is meh. Thumbs down, and definitely can't do something like make the build look better. Anyway, this gradient is more similar to the one I usually do. Well, it's not me doing them, it's Axiom, but like, shut up, because it's the most gradual of them all, but only because I used copper, which just has a built-in gradient, and originally I wasn't going to use the most oxidized looking copper part, but the packs of oxidization was just big enough for it, so I thought, why not? However, something that this oxidized copper might be doing is making the build look a bit too messy color-wise. And yes, I say might, because I just don't have an eye for it and can't often tell if something's like a bit too messy looking or stuff like that. So yeah, if this is really messy, that's why. Ooh, also right here, placing all those trapdoors, replacing the roof was surprisingly a complete accident because I just did a dumb. But now with whoa, finally I texture the walls, and in the end I chose magenta terracotta because I liked it the most. Crazy reasoning, I know. But also because I wanted to make it be a little bit more gradienty, I occasionally put a bit of pink terracotta on the bottom of the drips to make the transition a bit nicer, and I chose pink terracotta despite forgetting its existence because my only two other options were magma and never gold. Also, I added stuff onto that balcony, but that doesn't matter because woohoo, finally I'm actually building the water wheel properly this time. So for the water wheel, I just kinda did a basic hollow circle and added the different coloured logs in the middle because like contrast or something, and those fences and gates inside the wheel because support or something. Oh, what I do next, I'm kinda proud of myself for coming up with. So as you can see, I'm adding those buttons in the middle, but they don't look good because they're too small, and I don't want to leave the log just there because it looks a bit too flat. But then I remember souls exist. So I put one in there backwards, and the shading makes it look kinda 3D like I wanted, so yay, I smarted for once. Oh, speaking of smart, here's a clip of me failing to place a stair. So now it's time for detailing, which I'm actually really bad at, and my method is usually just scroll through the inventory until I see something that could be shoved onto the build with absolutely no reason nor purpose. Like that weird metal looking thing and that, well, I suppose Windows serves a purpose. But then while scrolling the inventory, I saw hanging signs and thought they might look good hanging from the overhang of the roof, and you know what? They kinda did actually look good. But after that I probably got bored of failing to add good major-ish detail, so I decided to add some much smaller ones, which were literally just mangrove signs and trapdoors on the walls to make it look a tad more textury. But then somehow I thought of a proper detail that isn't a shitty window. A door! To like go outside and maybe like access the upper water wheel part, even though it's a wheel that spins. But what's the point of a water wheel if you can't even get in the building? So I tried adding those stairs on its side, and yes, I did really struggle with placing those trapdoors, thanks for noticing. But because these stairs have a gap underneath them because design, I wanted to have a darker shadowy block underneath, which I somehow struggled with at the start. But then because slabs and trapdoors, I couldn't get the stairs and stuff on like the underneath and like the blocks looking good, and I really don't know how to explain it, but the bad, you know, so I destroyed it and just put that ladder there. But now, oh no, the hanging signs that looked decent, they're gone. Well, don't worry me in a slightly different tone. I'm putting some hanging signs back on, just less and in some different places, because before all two details on this side were just punched up in the middle, which I didn't really like, so I decided to spread them about a bit more. And now I finally finished the river from the start of this build by adding water. Wow. And adding those glass panes to be like splashed water that's fallen off the wheel. And I actually really like the way it looks. I liked it so much I even did it on that waterfall over there. Mainly because it would look really weird and bad without it, but like I still like it. Then I added a path in a bit of a shadowy area underneath the balcony because I think there should be a shadow there. And now, wow, it's doing a cool orbiting shot of the finished build. And now it's time for the tour. Except not really, because, well, you know how all builds ever have that one specific angle and direction they're supposed to be seen from? Well, I'd already picked my angle, and from that angle, the dirty hill behind it blended in with the roof too much. So yeah, that's why I'm adding these random tiny cliffs, which, in case you haven't watched this Hermitcraft Season 11, are very inspired by Mumbo's cliffs around his base. Kinda unrelated, but that block there is naturally generating. Yeah, I know. There's even another one floating down there, but it's only floating one block, so no one really cares about it because it's being upstaged by the other one. And, well, here is the tour. So I have added a few things since the time lapse, like the details on this path. which were actually added before that, but like I didn't mention it, so I feel like I should now. Also made the shadow under here a bit darker because it seemed like it should be, and also replaced this with nether brick fence to make it look darker and more like in the shade. Also this chimney. And the final thing I added was that just kind of pipe or something thing. I don't know. But yeah, it would definitely look better if I like did more to the surrounding area. But I probably should do that. But anyway, that is a really cool looking mountain. I just wanted to acknowledge that. I think that's it. I don't have anything else to say. So, like if enjoyed.